Welcome to the Deliverance Project. Here are your hosts, Anthony and Melissa.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Deliverance Project. I'm your host, Anthony.
Hello, I'm Melissa.
We are so glad that you are here with us today. We have a very exciting episode for you tonight. It is one that has been a little while in the making. We have been trying to actually locate a paranormal team that was working on a demonic possession case. And happenstance, scrolling through social media, we came across the team known as the Dead Awakening Paranormal team, who are actually in the process of working a demonic possession case. It is one that has a lot of twists and turns, a lot of complications. And so what we are trying to do is just have them on, and we're going to have their leader on. His name is Mike, and we'll meet him in just a second. But we are going to give him the floor, and we are going to let him tell this story in its entirety, every detail. And so this episode may go a little long, but we wanted you to know that we are actively working to get you other cases like this, but they're not always available. They're not always ones where we can locate a team that's in the process. And it doesn't mean we won't bring on other teams that can tell us about previous cases. But come on, Melissa.
Right.
We have one that is in the works. This is amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Now,
Excited.
we also want to just kind of give you some reminders about what we do here. And so if you are somebody who has stumbled across this podcast because you did a Google search, let's just get to it. My name is Anthony Corelli. I am an author. I've written a trilogy and now turned into a fourth saga of books called the Struggle Series. These are what's called Christian paranormal experiences. They are unique. These books tell the story of an out-of-the-box crazy pastor who goes out to work deliverance ministry with people, but then, murders happen, crimes happen, detectives get involved. So if you're somebody who loves the horror genre, you are somebody who loves thrillers, kind of detective novels with twists and turns, definitely surprise endings, that type of thing. I can just tell you this, my favorite authors are Frank Peretti. I love the M. Night Shyamalan kind of shock you at the end type endings. You'll see a lot of that in there. I'm also a huge John Sanford fan, big fan of the Prey books, the Lucas Davenport books. And so you'll see a lot of that woven into these books. And so I also am a retired minister and psychologist who has worked with people in many capacities, including deliverance ministry. And so this is something that I have helped countless people with over the course of, decades. And so this is a topic of mine that, has always stuck in my mind. And we thought, we want to teach what deliverance ministry is, not just from the concept of, a possession case. We believe that deliverance is on a spectrum. And so a demon will start messing with you here. You'll start seeing the little subtleties. And then way over here, of course, is the full-fledged possession. In any circumstance, we want to catch these problem areas on the lower end of the spectrum.
Yes.
And so what we are trying to do here at the Deliverance Project is just to teach you about the concept of demonic attack and spiritual warfare so that we could work the deliverance ministry kind of, format on the beginning. Doesn't mean we won't take you if you're all the way over here, but we definitely want to just teach this concept of how to battle demons biblically. So we do some teachings. We do a lot of, letters and correspondence from listeners and try to help them practically, each one individually. So that is what we do here. That's what we're about. So you can imagine that working an active paranormal case for a paranormal team where demonic possession becomes part of the ministry or cases that you're working, these are rare. And so we believe that Mike is going to have an amazing story for us tonight. So we look forward to that. Also, a reminder, if you want to know what we do, please visit thestruggleseries.com. That is our website. You could find out about this podcast. You could find out about our other podcast entitled The Struggle Series Podcast, which is simply me narrating the first 3 books in the Struggle series, the struggle, the sacrifice, the return, if you can see them behind us there. And so those are narrated by me. We also wanted to remind you, I actually just got off the phone with the audiobook folks for the return. So they're going to start working on that. We're probably a couple months out on that, but we definitely want to let you know that
I'm excited. Can't wait for that.
Yeah, it's exciting. And so you can purchase the return. It is out on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you buy your books. If you do buy any of these books through our website, I will personalize them for you in any way you need me to. Just leave us a message there. And so check those out. And as always, if you have a story of your own, you can reach us at the Deliverance Project Podcast at gmail.com. We will entertain letters, audio files, if you just want to tell your story. If you want to ask us some questions about deliverance ministry, demonic possession, and you don't want your story on the air, you just want some help, we will take all of those as well.
Exactly.
As a matter of fact, most of what we do never makes it onto this podcast. We're here to help in whatever capacity you need us to. If you are somebody who feels like you want to tell your story on this podcast, we would love to entertain that as well. So without further ado, I think what we need to do is we need to get with Mike. Okay, so we are with Mike Hardenus, who is the founder of Dead Awakening Paranormal. Now, when we kind of talked to Melissa about finding this like holy grail of what we wanted to find when we were looking for paranormal teams to interview, we had kind of a dichotomy set up. We wanted somebody who was not a believer in demons, but was just a believer in ghosts and wanted to do the kind of the scientific research. And then we also wanted somebody in the perfect world who had an active demonic possession case. And we thought, how often are you going to find that? We might find somebody who just came out of one. But then as TikTok does, as scrolling through TikTok, I find this video of this guy named Mike who is talking about this current case he has. And once we started watching the videos, I was actually in a hurry. I think I was online at the pharmacy. So I was waiting. So I saved it. I took a screenshot actually of the video. And then what happened is I went back and watched his videos, showed them to you. And we were like, please let this guy say yes. We reached out to Mike and here he is. Now, as we said in the beginning of the show, we are people who believe that deliverance can happen over a spectrum. And talking pre-show, we were speaking to Mike about how, hey, we would love to catch these demonic interactions at the beginning, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't reach out for help until they're way far progressed. And that's where a team like Mike's comes in, because they can come in and do the scientific stuff, but they also have the spiritual background.
Right.
And so, Melissa, what I think we should do is, very unlike me, we should shut up and just let Mike tell us about his team instead of trying to describe it for our listeners. So, Mike, can you just tell us about Dead Awakening Paranormal, who you are, how you got started, what you guys do?
Yeah, most definitely. And thank you again for both of you guys having me on the show. It is a pleasure. And like I said, I love being able to educate people and bring awareness of what it is we do. So again, my name is Mike Cardenas. I'm the founder of the Dead Awakening Paranormal here in San Antonio, Texas. Myself and my co-founder, Lee Trevino, we decided to, we were actually a part of my former team that I actually founded called Midnight Paranormal Society. We were very seasoned at the time. I have been with that team since 2008. And then one day, for personal reasons, I just took time away, to focus on myself, healing. And so finally, I got to a point where I was like, I'm ready to come back. And so I believe it was September, actually, of last year, we decided, hey, you know what, let's start a team again. And so I had a decision to make. Do I go back to MPS or do I just start a new chapter? And I decided to go with a new chapter. And so my sister runs MPS now. And now
Wow.
Lee and I, because he was our lead investigator at MPS. And so he goes, hey, man, I'm going to follow you, man, wherever you go. I said, cool, man. So we both founded the Dead Awakening Paranormal. He became my co-founder, and I said, you know what, I want my team, like I have with MPS, I wanted to represent my family, my immediate family. And so then, what was interesting was some of my former members of MPS followed me with this new team. And so one thing about me is that I've always had the belief that no matter what field you get into, knowledge is key. Before just diving into something, it's always important to read books, read articles. If you don't know what you're doing, or you want to learn more, who better to turn to than someone who is seasoned in whatever field you're going into? Doesn't matter what it is. It's always good to try to go connect with somebody and say, hey, I have the passion for this. Maybe I have experiences, but I want to be more involved. So can you maybe mentor me or take me under your wing? And so, like when I first got into the field, I didn't get none of that. I just kind of jumped in head first into the flames, man. And I said, God, I don't know where this is gonna take me, Lord, but if I can help bring people back to you, and you protect me in the way, because one thing I always say is that we as human beings, we truly do not know what it is we're dealing with. There are things out there that we truly do not understand until we cross that veil one day and we get to go to the other side. Maybe then we'll know more. But until then, it's just I think that yes, we have accounts, like again, through the Bible and through church. People talk to you about the different things that are out there, but it's like I'm learning as I'm going through my investigations, right? And anyway, so we help anybody who needs help, who's in a moment where to me, what I tell people, the worst thing you could do is lose hope. Hope is something you should never ever give up on, man, because
Amen.
hope is what gets you through the tough times. I mean, I've had moments myself where you want to wave that white flag, but God didn't make us to be in a position where we give up. You know what I mean? Like he made us to survive, to overcome, right? Just my belief, right? I'm not saying that I know it all. Just my belief, my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm like, I remember being that, with my mom and my siblings and experiencing things growing up. Someone brought the Ouija board into our apartment. It just flipped our whole life upside down.
Wow.
I didn't know what the heck a Ouija board was at the time. I was a kid. And so, everybody we turned to was like, oh, you guys are on drugs, or you're crazy. It's in your head. You need to get medically checked. And so my mom, being a single parent, I remember I used to see her cry because we were seeing things and experiencing things that we just truly didn't understand. And one day her saying, what can we do to get people to believe us? What is it, the one thing we can do without telling them about these experiences? And she said, when people come over to our apartment or to our home, wherever we're living, let them come in. And if they have a genuine experience without us saying anything, that's the validation that we need to know we're not crazy. It's not
True.
just in our head. And that's what most of the people I help, they go through. They want to know at the end of the day they're not crazy. And if they are crazy, that's just per se, I know you gotta be careful how you say things, but if it comes out that it's just really like mental health issues that's causing it, then they could turn medically to somebody to get help. But if it's not that, if it can't be explained through the medical side, then spiritually, how can they be helped, right? And so when I got back into this, I got right away. People know my reputation here in town. They know what are my goals, and what is I have worked towards, and that's helping people, right? Whether it's being there in a moment where they're vulnerable, being there when everyone else has ran away, we run towards it.
Sure.
And we don't think that we're better than anybody else, but listen, at the end of the day, I what I always do, right, is I always pray to God, because God, let me tell you, man, if people don't know God, people don't believe in God. Everybody in this life goes through something, and at the end of the day, when everybody else turns their back on you, when the whole world says no, God is always right there waiting for you to turn to him and say, look, I
Mm-hmm.
surrender to you. You take the wheel, man. I'm tired of running. I'm tired of driving. You do what you gotta do, and I'll follow you, Lord. You got my steps, right? So in doing this, I tell God, please, if there's anybody you want us to connect back to you in any way, shape, or form, as far as the paranormal goes, please, you bring them to me, and I'll figure out a way to get them to turn back to you, you know. And so, boom, we get blown up with cases, and of course, residential cases, right?
Sure.
And in this case, a mutual friend came to me that between myself and my client, a friend of mine who she's followed me even when I was a part of my past team. And she says, Mike, on Facebook, she messages me and says, Mike, do you know anybody who can do exorcisms? And to me, if someone tells me that, I'm like, whoa, I don't ever just jump to
Of course.
demonic right off the bat. To me, I'm all about what steps did you take? How did you come to that conclusion? Because demonic is the worst of the worst.
Of
You know
course.
what I mean? This is like the, and she was just like, well, you know, instead of me giving you the incorrect information, I'll connect you with the family being affected and let them tell you themselves. And I said, cool. So I'm all about documentation. I document everything from the moment that if I'm talking on the phone, I record the conversation. If I have an in-person interaction, I record from the moment I got my car until I go back into my car. I record everything. And so my client, the young lady's mother, she calls me. I record the conversation, and she begins telling me that, you know, she gives me some information. I said, just give me some information, and the rest I can do it in person. So what she began to tell me was that the last 3 years, 2 to 3 years, her daughter was a normal young lady, whatever her normal was, right? She was into singing, she was into sports, she was an all-around just normal young lady. This is a Hispanic family, and that from one moment to the next, the daughter, she had met this guy who, you know when you meet people, you can like right off the jump when you first meet somebody. I don't care who it is, whether it's in the street or it could be anybody. You, it's like we have the thing about us that we can pick up on when people are just bad people. You know what I mean? Like they have bad intent. You just gut feeling that God gave us, right? This thing, instinct, right? And that everyone said, man, this guy, something about him is it's just not good. But of course, we as human beings, nah, we'll learn on our own. You know what I mean? Like it's like my mom would tell me, Mike, I walked this road for you, so you don't make these mistakes. But I'm like, no, I'm 15, I know it all. Let me learn myself. You know what I mean? We all go through it, right? And it's like, so the daughter was like, yeah, I don't know what you're saying. You know, he's a good guy. And then she started dating the guy, and then come to find out, when the nightmare started, right? So when you meet this young lady, when I first met her, it was apparent. I'm not a doctor, but it was apparent there was some kind of mental health issues.
Sure.
There was some traumas because again, the guy who she got with, he beat her almost to death, and she escaped from him. The client lives with her elderly mother, and which is the grandparents in their home, and they've been in that house for over 55 years, so that's where they stay, right? And when she escaped from this guy, she went straight there because that's home, right?
Of
When
course.
she went, the guy found out that she was there, showed up with a gun, and said, "If any of you guys intervene or interfere with me grabbing her and taking her off, I'm gonna start shooting, and
Wow.
I don't care if you die in this moment because she's going with me." Well, she didn't fight. She said, "I'm just gonna go." So she went. He forced her to get onto drugs, and the drug of choice was meth. I'm not a drug addict by any means.
Oh,
I've heard of other people who've done meth, and they said that even that now that they've been off of meth for years sober, that they still have long-term side effects or
Highly
effects from the
addictive.
drug, right?
Highly addictive.
And so he forced her to do it. Well, then at one day, I guess that he was getting high. She left again, and he shot at her car 9 times. Boom, 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 as she was driving off.
Whoa.
Well, then the cops got involved, and he had other charges that he picked up on. So now he's in prison. She has a restraining order, so he can't come back into her life. We don't know if he had any attachments because we can't talk to him. He's in prison. But what ended up happening was when she got out of that situation, she told the family, "Look, these things are happening, and I'm gonna kind of go away for a little bit, and I'll come back when I'm ready." Well, then one of her brothers in the neighborhood they live in, he was walking down some road, and one of his friends said, "Hey, man, your sister's in this drug house." And when he went to that drug house, she was laying there like passed out. He grabbed her, took her out of there, said, "Man, you don't belong in here. Like, this is not you." Took her out, but because remember, she had got addicted to the meth because of that guy. So brought her home. The grandparents said, "Look, the only way you can stay in this house is if you drop the drugs. If you're on drugs, you cannot be in this household." So then, what happens when you're on drugs, on any kind of drug for that matter, you go through a withdrawal phase where you start breaking from the drug, and of course they try to gain her the help she needed for that part. So then, one thing they noticed, and again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a drug expert, but you know, at one time I was addicted to Xanax, because I had bad anxiety, and I didn't have medical insurance. So they gave me Xanax, and I say, man, whoever made that Xanax, excuse my language, they have a special place in hell for them, because
Of course.
it's I broke from that cold turkey, and let me tell you, I thought I was gonna die, and thank you Lord I didn't die. But the thing is, I can't imagine what I went through, and people who are even more addicted to things, what she went through. Your body changes, your mind, and you feel like you're gonna die.
Oh,
But
yeah.
anyways, what ended up happening was she was asleep one day, and this is where things started kind of turning to like, should we take her to get medically evaluated, or is this something more spiritual? Because as she's laying down, she was breathing really heavily, and this was already a point where she was already far past the point of like no more doing drugs. She sat up one day. She just sat up in the middle of the night. She sat up, and the mother said, my client said that she saw her. She's like, "Hey, are you okay? What's going on?" And that she was like, had her eyes closed, and when she opened her eyes to look at her, that she had these really dark, like black bags under her eyes out of nowhere. Just, I mean, she was normal. They had dark black bags under her eyes, and then her eyes looked different. It almost looked like somebody else's eyes were in her eye sockets, right? And that she goes, they're telling me, because she has a little boy, right, who now I think he's like 6 or 7. But again, this is about 3 years ago, that she goes, the voices keep telling me that Jesus is inside of him, and he's too powerful, and he needs to die. So she jumps straight up and runs straight to the son and grabs a hold of him to harm him. Well, then they all grab her to restrain her, and she collapses, right? Well, then several, like maybe at least 5 to 6 hours later, she wakes up, comes to, has no recollection of what happened. Well, then again, several nights later, she jumps up again, like she sits up again, and they said that this time she starts talking, and when she's talking, they said that to them sounded gibberish because they didn't understand what she was saying. She was saying words, but they didn't understand what she was saying, and that she was talking would sound like a male voice. And they were like, "This, we never heard her do this before." They go, "We don't know if it's from the drugs, we don't know what this is, but this is not normal." So then at that point, they said, what the after that happened, and every time these things would happen, she would collapse and go back to sleep. Well, then the thing that happened before they said, "Okay, let's take her to get checked." One day her son was in a chair and he was eating food. He happened to fall and he hit his head. Well, she stood over him and was like, kind of like this diabolical kind of like laugh, and she started saying, "You need to die. You have Jesus in you. You're too powerful." And they keep telling me you need to die. The not the mother, the client, but her elderly mother, the grandmother, walks in and said that she goes, "Mike, when I looked at my granddaughter, her face looked like somebody else. She gave me this look that was so scary that the grandmother had a heart attack and was rushed to the hospital. Of
I
course, she
believe.
survived it, right?
Mhm.
Well, then they took her. I think like days later, they took her to. They said they took her to get evaluated. So they took her to the doctor. They did the evaluation. The doctor says, "Well, my diagnosis is that it's schizophrenia."
Of
Well,
course.
then the mother goes, "Well, there's no history of that." He goes, "Doesn't matter." He goes, "There's things that can trigger it, and it can happen to anybody." And she goes, "Well, can I get a second opinion?" He goes, "You could do whatever you want. It's your business, right?" So then she went to a second doctor, and mind you, this is all, she has all the paperwork for this. All of it saved, and I've seen it. She goes to the next doctor. He says, "No, it's not schizophrenia. It's a brain tumor." So then she's like, "What?" So he did all the scans. He gave her his findings. She went to the third and final doctor, and the doctor says it's not schizophrenia, it's not a brain tumor, it's effects because of the meth. So in her mind, she's like, there's no like consistency as far as the findings. Like not one doctor is coming up with the same thing, that's consistent with what's going on. So then she said, if it's not, if there's nothing that can be medically be found with her besides what they're saying, maybe if you turn to the church, maybe it's a spiritual thing that's happening. So they're Catholic, right? And let me tell you, man, when they're telling me this, right? Some of this is on the phone and the rest of it's in person. I end up finding out things later on, which I'm about to get to. It's just so many layers, right? That I have to like peel back and go through. But what ended up happening was they went to the church, their home church, that they go to, right?
Local church.
And the church said, "Sorry, we can't help you. We're not going to assist with this." So they said, "Okay, let's go to another church." They went to another Catholic church. Sorry, no. And they went to, I think, like maybe like 10 churches, and they said no, every one of them. So then what do they do? Whenever, to me, there's always like an order, right? There's like levels of people, like, like that rank, if you will. Like if there's like the normal church, and then, there's always those people who are selected to do more, like the darker cases, like the exorcisms, right?
Sure.
So that's here in San Antonio, and I'm sure everywhere else, it's the archdiocese, right?
Uh-huh.
So they went to the archdiocese of San Antonio. They said, "Sorry, we're not helping with that right now." So then it's like, they're like, "Well, who else do we turn to?" So for those who don't understand Spanish, what I'm about to say,
Curandera.
they went to a botanica.
Yeah.
It's a place where you go to where they could do like fixed candles. They had their versions of cleansings. They do readings, and so she turned to these people. And when she walked into this said location, the daughter, the one of her sons sat down with the sister, the daughter, and the mother, my client, just kind of walked into another room to go speak to somebody. And the person says, "Wait a minute, stop, 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 hold on." He gets up and he walks to the waiting area and goes, "Who's this young lady here? Who is with her?" And she goes, "That's my daughter. So I'm here for someone to check her out." And the person says, "You know what? You need to leave now. Something heavy and dark is on her, and we cannot help you. You need to leave right now. Also, she is very gifted and needs to know how to protect herself. But what's on her right now, I can't help you with. So you need to leave now." And so she's in tears. The mother, she's like, "But we went to the medical, stuff. They said they didn't know. We went to the church. They said no. Now you're telling me no. Then who do we turn to now? Like there's no one who wants to help them." And this is the part of them wanting to lose hope, right?
Of course.
So then that's where I come in. That's where I come in. And so I go, I'm recording the conversation of everything that's telling me. Well, then the moment happens where we get off the phone call, we set up a meet date, and I have a good friend of mine. His name is George. He's a solo investigator, and this guy, let me tell you, man, and this is we it's an inside thing. We joke about it, but he's an audio guy. He loves to do like EVPs. Like whenever we do recordings, he's the one we go to if we have a hard time hearing something. He can hear a fly fart, man. That's how good his hearing is. So we always turn to him when we need to clean stuff up and make it a lot enhancer for us. So I said, "Hey George, I'm about to play this recording of this interview. Would you be willing to like listen in with me and see if anything was caught on the recordings?" Sure, man. So we're listening to the conversation, and there's a point where I tell her, I take all these cases very serious. When the background, she was by herself in the house. You hear a male voice saying, "Shut up," like really loud. "Shut up." And there's nobody there with her. She's by herself. Could I confirm with her, was there anybody with you? She goes, "No, the family was gone and I was talking to you by myself." So then that was recorded. So I'm like, okay, there's something obviously there with her. So then I go to the actual home and my team, right? Let's see, there's me, there's Lee. Okay, there's a one, two, three, four, seven of us, right? And so, no, six of us. And so, what ended up happening was nobody could make it out with me. And I never advise anybody who's coming into these, to me, if you're new to the field, never get a residential case off the bat. It's more for seasoned people. To me, yes, you need to start somewhere, but it's not that, because not just the paranormal aspect, but when you go to talk to these people, be prepared. It's like you're going to be a therapist for them, because it's like true confession. You're hearing and you're going to see them cry. You're going to see them get angry. There's just so much that's involved. So you being brand new into the field, don't ever turn to these cases right away, because just it takes time for you to learn to know. Because if you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna get hurt. People are gonna get hurt all around you, and it's all gonna fall back onto you, and you don't want that.
Absolutely.
Either more damage.
Eh, yeah, you're gonna do more damage, and I don't. That's not what I'm about. So I go meet the family. I drive up. I pray. I always pray before I go into the property, and I always pray before I leave. Right.
Good.
And I pray to God. I said, God, please, protect me. You know my heart more than anybody else does. You know why I'm here. I am not fearless by any means, but God, please, if I have you who protects me, then I shouldn't fear anything. But I'm gonna respect what I'm coming to do. I'm not here to play games or joke around, because you can get hurt really quickly.
Yeah.
And I said, but while I'm here, can you please guide me and send your angels to protect me? And so I go into this place, I walk in, and whenever I go to a location, whenever something's being told to me, I always go with the open mind. I go with the open mind because I'm here to hear the claims and the reports and the stories. And as a paranormal investigator, I'm here to try to see what is causing these things. Is it the spiritual thing? Is it something that we can debunk? Is it something that's just, there's a natural reason behind this? Like, they can, say, hey, this is what you think it's paranormal, but it's not. So I went in there. I have just my phone here, and I didn't take no other devices. I sat at the table with the family, and the daughter in question, who has the attachment, she didn't want to come out of the restroom. And I'm thinking, okay, is this, I'm thinking, why does she not want to come out for? And so I'm waiting there for a while, talking to the family, and all of a sudden she disappears. She comes out of the kitchen, and I see her, and as I'm sitting there, my left hand started shaking really hard. And I wasn't scared or anything, but just my hand just started like shaking, like almost like trembling. And I'm
Sure.
like, what the hell is on me? Am I having an anxiety attack right now? Like, I didn't know what it was, right? And I put my hand on my lap, and I said, if this thing is trying to intimidate me and make me leave so it won't help this family,
Mm-hmm.
number one, I'm not here to challenge it. That's not my job. But I need to gather this information, because when I'm not an exorcist, but I'm here to gather information, because when I do turn to somebody, just because of my cardiness, they're not gonna say, "Oh, because I know you, I'm gonna just jump in and go help." They want proof. They want to know, is this a legit thing, so we can help you, right? So she sits down, and I'm talking to the family. They're telling me more about what's been happening with the daughter. And as I'm listening and I'm recording everything, I recorded for about 4 hours, right? And I'm looking at the young lady, and she never would look at me in my face. She would not look at me. And there was a point where I said, okay, can we stop for a moment? I said, she gave me her name. I said, I'm no longer talking to, and her name. I said, I'm no longer talking to you. Who I would like to speak to is this attachment. Whatever you are, whoever you are, wherever you came from, I said, my name is Mike. I said, I want to ask you a question. I'm not here to challenge you. I'm not here to take you on, because it's not a physical thing. This is a spiritual thing. I said, I am protected by God and Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. I said, I want to know, so I can better address you. What is your name? And as soon as I asked what its name was, not her name, but what its name was, she started doing this thing where it kept taking me in circles. Like, I said, what is your name? And she would go on these long tangents, like talking about how she can, it would say she's not here with us, she's dead, and things that were like just kind of taking me in circles, and I would just
All
listen.
demonic stuff. It happens a lot.
Right. I was listening. I'm documenting all this, and I would stop, and then I would like change the conversation to the family, and then I would stop again and say, please, I need to know what your name is. And again, here we go again, taking me in circles, taking me, talking about everything under the sun, but it would kept avoiding giving me its name. And then I said, okay, if you're not going to give me your name, then maybe you can answer this. I said, out of all the people that you could have possibly targeted, why her? What was it about this young lady that you felt that she was the one that you wanted to that you wanted to affect? And, again, this thing tells me, because she's strong and because it's a challenge, but we know that she's dead inside, and so we're going to eventually break her. And
Oh,
I said, okay. And mind you, all I'm doing is asking questions that come to my mind. And I have this, we have this like a questionnaire, if you will, that we ask pertaining to what kind of case we're dealing with, right? We have a series of questions, but not every question pertains to every case. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so I'm just kind of like writing down your responses, right? And then, mind you, whenever she's answering me, or it's answering me, no eye contact, right? And
is it like responding to you in her voice or in the male's voice? I'm just curious.
well, it wasn't her voice that I
His
can
voice.
hear.
Oh, wow.
But if you go back to my recent videos on TikTok, I had put like a caption or like a title said, I hope you guys never have to encounter a demonic case like this or whatever.
I've
And you see the young lady, she's at the table, and if you watch this video, what's really interesting, because it happens twice to me in over 4 hour conversation and recording. It only happened twice. She's sitting there, and the family's talking, and all of a sudden, I zoom my phone, my camera, I zoom into her face, right? Like I try to get, like, I want to see just her face, and her hair's like this, all on her face like this. She's kind of like looking to the side, and her hair's like this. And right when I zoom in and the camera goes like super close to her face, her right eyeball right here turns right in the moment where that camera stops in her face, and her eye just turns and looks right into the camera. And I'm like, oh, like I wasn't expecting that,
creepy.
because I mean, hours she was not looking at me, but the one time I zoomed into her face, it's like I don't know if it knew, and it kind of went like this, just with the eye, and looked right, and then turned back this. And but what's so interesting was when you go back and watch that video, she turns and looks right into the camera, and in that moment, the screen around her face, it blackens, like it darkens around her face,
Mm.
and then as it darkens and she turns like this away, it gets light again, which was really weird because I mean, I did the whole family, and not nobody did that happen to except for her. So then, fast forward, we're conversing with her. And what was really interesting was, and and again, for anybody who has never done an investigation in the paranormal, or have ever had encounters like this, one thing to understand is that even though our intentions are good and in the right place,
Mhm.
we can easily become the victims ourselves. We can easily be plagued ourselves,
Amen.
because we are trying to come help something or someone, but when you get involved with these things, part of that energy can come with you, and then ultimately affect our own families, our own people, anybody we encounter. So we have to be extremely careful and not to give power to these things, even though, yes, God is protecting us, but if you are not careful, any little wrong move can ultimately come crumbling down, right? So one of the things I noticed is that it or she kept belching a lot, belching and yawning a lot.
We talk about
And then,
Mhm.
yeah, belching and yawning a lot, and
and
then
coughing.
she would, and
Those,
coughing,
those
yes.
three things are good indicators
Yeah,
of demonic.
yes. And so this is happening, and again, I'm taking note of everything, right? Because I'm like, why are these things happening? No one else is doing it. Why is she doing this? Where is it a medical condition? Is it I don't know, but I'm just recording everything, right? And so then, I'm talking to the family. There was moments where there was a moment where I paused. I said, okay, I'm gonna leave my camera rolling. Don't go nowhere. I'll be right back. And I took the family outside and left her by herself, because I was like, okay, now that we're away, because again, at this point, I don't know if she's being sincere or this is just a fake, a made up thing. So I
Mhm.
Sure.
said, I told her that my camera wasn't rolling. I said, I'll be right back. I'm gonna talk to your family. Just stay here. Don't go anywhere. Don't move. We'll be right back. And when we leave, she is like growling on camera, and she don't know. She doesn't know that she's being recorded. She does like this growl, and she starts talking like normal, and then she says something again. It's not English, and I had the clip saved, right? And there was moments where she just talking to herself, or it's talking through her. I don't know, but it's just she's just going by herself. And so when I review that part, of course, I see that, I hear the growling. And then whenever, I noticed that whenever we would try, like, I would try pressing this thing, here came the coughing, here came the belching and the moaning and groaning. And then, and so eventually the conversation came to an end. And I said, okay, guys, I think I recorded as much as I needed. I said, I'll be in touch. I'm going to review this footage and I'm going to see if anything was documented in the background. I said, and then we'll discuss the next step. So I'm exiting the home. I tell the family, listen, I know that you guys have been going through a lot of ordeal. This is a big ordeal. This is a moment where you're ready to give up. I'm glad you didn't give up. Understand that. Listen, I'm not here to exercise anything, but if there's one thing I can offer you is that you're not alone. I will be here from beginning to end, and I will make sure to get the right people involved. If it requires exorcism of any kind, I'll bring the right people so that way, because my goal is this. I told you, these are my intentions, is that when this is all said and done, I want her, I just I hope, never expect, I just hope that she can reconnect back with God. Because at the end of the day, like they say, it's above my pay grade. I'm not the one bringing the peace back into their life. It's the
Amen.
Lord above, right?
Amen.
Amen to that. And so I know my role in this, right? And so I said, but don't worry. I go, it may get worse before it gets better, but that's okay, because without pain in these moments, there's no appreciation. And understand that God's not, He's not allowing this just because He wants you to suffer. These are all moments to trust God in these moments and to turn back to Him. That's it. And so I left, and I was leaving the house. My mother had came because nobody wanted to come, no one could come because of work. My mother came with me, but she was in the car. So don't get off that car. Stay in my car.
Mm-hmm.
So I get into the car I prayed, and I get in the car, and as I'm saying it, kind of discussing with her really quickly what I experienced. I turned to my left because where the house is at, and she's standing there by the front door, and she's saying something to me, and she comes running full speed
Oh my
to
God.
me, and I'm like, what the heck? Is she gonna punch me or something? I don't know what to expect. And when she runs, she literally stops like a few feet from my door, and she just stops, and you see her head turn like this to the left, and I look in front of me, and there's a man there, the neighbor across the street where I'm parked by, and he's grabbing, he has his kid in his arm, and he's getting his other child out of the back seat of their car, and she runs to him, and she's like saying something about the child, and I guess from what my understanding is that everyone in the vicinity knows about this ordeal, so everyone's afraid.
Oh, of course.
And so the man sees her, and again I have this recorded. You can see his face. He's like he's afraid, and she's saying something to him, and he grabs his kids and literally he books it. I mean, he runs full speed to his house, and she turns around and she's kind of like this, like kind of like dancing, and then she like hops, she's like skipping back to the house, saying some gibberish or something, and then she goes back inside,
Hmm.
and I'm like, okay,
Oh my gosh.
then
Oh,
I leave, right? I go home, I report what happened to my team, and I'm like, man, who can I get involved in this? Who can, I can show them these findings and share what we discussed, and who can help. Well, there's a priest, right? From my understanding, I think he's a Roman Catholic priest, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. His name is Father Ruben Lopez. He travels through the U.S. and he helps with demonic cases, and he does exorcisms and deliverance, right? And so I reached out to him. I said, Father Lopez, I said, I have a case, man, and I think I think that you need to get on this. I'm hoping you can help me with this case. And he goes, well, what are the details? So I give him the details, and he says, how soon can you go back to the family's house and let me speak with them over the phone? He goes, because he says he too is gifted, but he never leads with him being gifted. It's always, of course, through the works of God, right?
Sure.
He goes, but when I go to places, I can pick up on things, but I never ever say, oh, it's my gift that's allowing me to help. It's God's work, right?
Of course. Yeah.
So yeah, so he tells me, let me go in. He goes, have me on the phone, put me on a speaker, like a Bluetooth speaker, so my voice can project. He's like, because I don't want this thing to know that we're here to help. And he goes, when I'm talking to the family, he's like, I will be able to hear on my end if whatever is there, and I'll hear it talking during the conversation. So I said, okay. So we came up with a date. We went to the family's house again. My whole team was there this time. And we go in there, and he says, okay, can I speak to the mother, which is my client? He goes, okay, with your permission, can I speak to your daughter? I mean, she's of age. She's 30 years old. She's a grown young lady. But he's like, okay, this is your daughter. May I speak to her and find out if this is a demon or not, or whatever it is? And she goes, yeah, you do. And so he talks to the daughter. He goes, do I have your permission to help you? I need you to verbally say out loud that I have your permission. So she goes, yes, you have my permission to help me. He goes, what we're gonna do is, I guess he had like I don't know the scriptures or what he had, but basically he said, I need you to repeat everything I say word for word. And if you have this demonic thing or this demon, it may prevent you from wanting to say these things, right? So then he goes to this thing, right? And they're going back and forth. And mind you, I'm recording everything. Again, I document everything. There was a point where he's saying, and I have to go back to the to see what he was saying, but as he's talking, she starts laughing mid conversation. And she would like stop and she would like kind of smirk and laugh, and then she'll kind of get back on track and would talk and say what he needed to, say what she needed to say. And then he kept like you would hear him like talk, and he'll pause, talk and pause, and I'm like, and I go, is everything okay? Is there feedback? He goes, Mike. He goes, you guys can't hear it. He's like, but I can hear it growling, and I can hear it saying things I cannot repeat. He's like, it is present, but it's not just one demon. It's multiple ones, multiple demons. He goes, and from my understanding, what I'm picking up on, that it's a from a generational curse, and these demons are contracted to bring destruction to the family through like the lineage of the family. And I'm like, okay. And in my mind, as the investigator aspect, I'm like, well, I know you're gifted, and but how do you know this? Like, how can we go through the process of knowing this is exactly what it is? But and I didn't question. I just in my mind thought that. Well, then he says, oh, and here's another thing. When we met her, she was pregnant. So that's another element of this, right? She got brutally raped in the process during this time. She got brutally raped, and so now she had a baby because of that moment, right? And so at the time when she was pregnant, he says, I'm going to come down there. I'm going to stay in the house with you guys for 6 days. And in this 6 days, I'm going to exercise the property, the house, the family. And he goes, and Mike, it's very important that you guys are there to your team, because now that you're taking this case on, everyone's has a chance of having this attachment, or this energy. And and when I arrive, I need to go to even your own homes, your own houses, or place to live, to cleanse your own home, because I don't want to take a chance that I leave and something's still with you guys. And so he goes, but I cannot conduct the exorcism until she had that baby, because she can go to cardiac arrest.
Of course.
He's like, he's like, the last thing I want is for her to something happen to her plus the baby. And he goes, is her little boy baptized? And the mother of my client goes, no, they're not baptized. He goes, well, that's something that has to happen. They have to be baptized. He's like, once they get baptized, he goes, and she has the other baby. 30 days after the baby's born, I'm gonna come down and I'm gonna stay with you guys, and we're gonna do this. And so that was what he said and what they agreed on. We all agreed on. Well, then they leave. I mean, we leave, right? We're done with the conversation. But me, as an investigator, and I guess the investigation mindset, and also that gut feeling, like I feel like not everything's being told to us. I feel like there's some information that's not being said. Just a gut feeling, right? And so I kept going back. I was like, you know what, guys, family, I need to come back. I need to ask more questions. Well, then in the process, I end up meeting a guy off of TikTok, right? 'Cause, I mean, people were blowing me up when I was, putting these little snippets of videos
Of
of
course.
this case. And I ended up meeting this guy who's a part of our team now. His name is Ned. And this gentleman, he follows like the biblical text and the Bible as far as from my understanding, and I could be wrong, and if you're listening, Ed, please correct me. But from what I saw from him, because he wears like that little hat, the hat thing you put on your head, and it to me reminds me of the Jewish kind
Yeah.
of like belief
Mhm.
or whatever.
Mhm.
But he says he's not Jewish,
Yeah.
and he even wears like these little things on his waist, on his like
Talit.
belt things. They're like blue and white little
Yeah. Talit.
things,
Mhm.
and he teaches like Hebrew and stuff. So he kind of goes to that aspect. And he told me, Mike, he goes, I'm also gifted. He goes, and whenever I come in contact with people, he's like, everything I do is through God. He's like, but whenever I meet people, if they have any sort of attachment, they will start reacting in that moment, not like 10 minutes later or 30 minutes. Just right in the moment, they will start lashing out in that moment. And I said, okay. So then I invite him to come with me to speak to the family. He goes, Mike, I'm telling you right now, man, he started praying for us before we went in there. And like whenever he prays, he says to the God of Abraham, to the God, like he says to be specific when you pray, because if you just say my God, he goes, it could be anything out there. He goes, so you always got to be specific, or that's how he does things, right?
Mhm.
And he was praying for us.
Messianic.
We go into the property, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
It sounds messianic, like a messianic in the Judaism, but he's not a
Uh,
Jewish person.
yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not too sure. And so we go in there, and he's walking to the property, and he goes, Mike, there are items here that people don't realize are connected to paganism
Hmm.
and all these different things that people think that are like these decorations, but they don't know the deeper meaning behind them. That you need to remove these items. So then he meets my client, and we're talking, and he's like, he goes, you see that, you see on the fence there, you have that clay pottery. They're like sun faces. He goes, that right there, he goes, that's tied with paganism. And he kind of showed like an article about what it's tied to and what it represents. And she was like, well, that's my mom's stuff. And, we have to tell her, and it's up to her if she wants to remove it or not. So then we go into the home, and the grandmother, I call her grandma, she comes up, she gives me a hug. She sees Ned, and listen, I kid you not. He shakes her hand, and in that moment, she starts flipping out. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like she starts getting, her face gets real flush, red, and she's looking at him, and she's like really angry for some reason. And I'm like, what? I never seen her this way. So he asks, is it okay if I have free range to walk inside your home, like to the rooms? And my client goes, yeah, go ahead. We walk into her room, the grandmother's room. He says that he can feel something really heavy coming from her room. And all of a sudden, in that moment, he starts quoting the scriptures of the Bible about some story. And when he starts quoting the scriptures of the Bible, she goes, "Get out of my room! Get out right now!" Like the grandmother starts, I mean, yelling, like, "Get out of my room! I don't want you in my room! Get out of my room!" And we're just like, "What the heck is going on?" So I go, "Grandma, are you okay? Get out of my room! You're not welcome in my room! Get out of my room!" So we step out of the room. So the grandmother starts yelling, I mean, really loudly, and which kind of to me that was not the character of who I knew the grandmother to be in that moment. And I was like, man, that's really odd to me. So we respect her wishes. We get her room, and she's flustered. Her face is completely red. She's angry, and he turns to me and says, Mike, he says, because he met the daughter, the one that the whole thing's about,
Uh
and
huh.
he goes, Mike, I didn't feel nothing on her. He goes, whatever's here, I feel like it's now on her now. And he says, he goes, for some reason, there's a link between the grandmother and this young lady, the granddaughter, the daughter. And I said, okay, so I wonder what this link is. Well, then I asked the family, I said, okay, look, I go, Ned, go outside for a moment, just step away for a second. Let's see if the grandma goes back to normal, right? So
Hmm.
he walks to the front. The grandmother goes back to normal. We're sitting there talking, and I said, look, I need to ask you a serious question. I need, listen, I go, when we investigate, I ask for my clients to be upfront and honest and transparent with me, because if you don't tell me, the truth always comes to the light.
Of course.
It always comes to the light. Maybe it'll be a little more difficult. It's like I have to pull a tooth, but I'm gonna find out eventually. So the more you're willing to tell me, the better the process can be. Just listen. You guys are ultimately wanting peace again. So please be honest with me, because this is the only way I'm gonna be able to help you. And so what we ended up finding out was the elderly grandmother, she began to tell us that when her father was alive, that he was heavy into witchcraft, and that he will go around and either people hired him to do jobs, I say jobs, but things to people, and he was practicing heavy into this. Well, then what ended up happening was, it's like, if you will, he met his match, and there was somebody who came back at him and said they told him, we're putting a generational curse on you, and then when you die, it's really going to trickle down and affect the rest of your family for all time. And so then he ended up passing away eventually, and that's when everything went downhill. The family, like, no one can stay married, problem after problem, losing. I mean, it was the worst of the worst you could think of.
Familiar.
Well, then the grandmother in the question, she begins to tell me that one day I think they're at the doctor's office. They're somewhere, right? And that, yeah, I think they're in the doctor's office because something was wrong with her. Something was really off. She went to get checked, and that as she was there was a guy talking to a lady. The man stopped what he was doing and went to talk to her husband, the grandfather of the young lady. And that man goes, "Look, your wife there, I guess I'm assuming it's your wife. That's your wife." He goes, "Yeah, she has something bad on her." And then her husband, the grandfather, he wanted to punch the man because he was like, "Wait a minute, what are you talking about?" And he goes, "No." He goes, "Calm down." He goes, I'm just trying to relate to you what I'm picking up on. If you choose not to do anything about it, that's your choice. But I'm just letting you know something's on her." Well, then on top of that happening, right? And again, I'm thinking, going back to that generational curse. Well, then the grandmother one day has a run-in with some lady I guess she was working with at the time, and come to find that woman, supposedly was like doing voodoo to her or something, right? And that she started having nightmares of this woman every single day, waking up from her nightmares, where that woman was in her dreams, laughing and like tormenting her.
No.
So then, but mind you, she didn't tell me none of this when I was first there. And so then I asked her, "Did you ever go get help for that?" She said, "No, I just left it alone." I said, "Look, no matter how much you go in your life, if you have these things on you, they can stay with you for the rest of your life. You need to get help." And I know for them it was a different time, so it's like, at one time you couldn't really talk about these things because it was like hey, you're crazy, or so you couldn't really talk about certain things. But it's like, still, you have to get the help for this, right? And so she never did. So then fast forward, I find out that my client, the elderly woman's daughter, my client, when she was around the same age, or a little bit younger, she was 25, the daughter's 30. When she was around that same age, something started happening so that she couldn't explain. She started withdrawing herself from everybody. She would isolate herself in her room. She started going through depression and like just started thinking really bad thoughts. And then she started pretty much being like like under a rock, hiding from everybody. And then whenever she started associating with people, was trying to associate with her like her family, she would lash out. Well, then come to find out, something attached itself to her. And at that time, their home church they go to now, that they've been going to all these years, they got the approval and they had an exorcism done on my client.
Oh, wow.
When she was at that age. So then and I'm learning that at that moment. I'm like, "You God didn't tell me none of this." And they were like, "Well, we're telling you now," which I was very grateful for. Well, then she said that the client, my client said, I go, "Do you remember anything that happened?" She goes, "No, I remember just." She goes, "There was a lot of things that I don't remember because I was always out of it. Like I would have these blackouts."
Sure.
She was like, "But I remember one day when they did that, I guess they performed the exorcism, that she remembered just opening her eyes and she was on the floor, and they said, 'Okay, it's over, but whatever you do, don't talk about this going forward. Don't talk about it. Don't dwell on it. Just move on from this. Stay straight with God.'" You know what I mean? And so then, fast forward, okay, now the daughter's being affected. And so,
Wow.
my thoughts in that moment is, okay, there's a lot of contributing factors on why maybe this thing chose her as the perfect candidate. She had the trauma, the being beat up, being raped, the
Hmm.
drug abuse. So she's already, instead of this thing having to like break her down spiritually and go through the steps of like oppression, infestation, all these things, she's already down for the count already.
Of
It was
course.
like, oh, don't mind if I do, and just jumps to her, right?
Hmm.
So it's like, there's all these contributing factors so that she's a perfect candidate, right? Well, then we also found out that my client, her ex-husband, which is the daughter's dad,
Hmm.
he remarried, right? And the woman he remarried was heavily into witchcraft and hated the family because she was like, I don't want you associating with your daughter or your kids anymore. I don't want you talking to their family. And the new wife started doing bad things to the family and to anybody who associated with the previous family. You know what I mean? So it was like all these things started coming out of the woodwork, all this information. I'm like, holy cow. And so then one of the things that the grandmother says to me is she says, the grandmother says, I have something in my backyard that may be of interest. You could take it with you if you want. I go, what is it? The grandfather, when he was alive, for those again who don't understand Spanish or don't know what this is, it's called and I'm assuming, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. Do you know what a molcajete is?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so for those who don't know, this molcajete, it's like a stone, like a condensed stone that people they can make like hot like salsas and stuff. They can like grind like herbs or whatever they want, and
Hmm.
they just grind it down, and it has like you have like a little like a stone little a mixer thing in it, and you can pretty much just grind it down to a pulp, and then you can make like normally you can use it to cook with whatever. Well, in this
Mortar
case,
and pestle.
they had this one in their home it was like a long one. Like imagine like it was about maybe like a foot long, and it had like a curve to it. And so what I was told was that the grandfather who did the witchcraft, that was one of his tools that he used to grind up all his like the herbs and whatever he needed to do things. And they had on the property. And I'm like,
Mm.
why are you guys keeping this here for? Like what is this? What purpose is it serving being here? And they're like, well, because she's like the elderly, grandma, like, oh, it's my father's. It don't matter. It was used for really bad things. Like, why not get rid of it, right? And so on top of these things happening, the grandmother collects an assortment of antique dolls and antique items. Well, then people who are my team who are gifted, they've walked by and said, hey man, Mike, some of these dolls have some pretty bad attachments on them. There's energy on them that's no bueno, no good.
Wow.
And I wouldn't even suggest cleansing them. Just get rid of them altogether. And the grandmother's like, I'm not gonna do any of the things unless Father Lopez tells me. He directs me. So I'm just like, oh my God. So then after I got this information, one thing that came to mind was the grandmother is reacting in a way that the granddaughter is reacting. She got mad when we went to her room and when Ned quoted the Bible, a scripture, she lost her stuff. Is there a possibility that the grandmother is practicing witchcraft as well?
Mhm.
Mm.
Is that a possibility, right? So it's like we we wanted to get access to the room again because we wanted to see. She mentioned that she has a shrine in there. That she has a shrine that she prays, and I'm like, I didn't see no shrine in there when I walked in. I was like, maybe she has something that she's hiding that she didn't want us to see, right? So I'm like, well, maybe if I can get back into the room, maybe I could find this thing.
Mm.
Because Ned kept saying, oh, there's something under the bed, but we didn't get to be in there very long because she ran us off, right? Well, then when I go back, when we leave from there, and I'm reviewing the video from this place, you can hear and mind you, it was kind of quick, but it was just enough where it got recorded. There was a moment when the grandmother was really mad when Ned was there, that when she walked off, she was using profanity. she was cussing at him, not me, but at him. And we didn't hear it because we were so, our thoughts were focused on the client and her daughter, that when the grandma walked off camera, we started walking away, she's cussing in the background. And she never does that. Like, normally she would never do that. So again, breaking her character of who she is because of this attachment, these things are in the house. And so then we leave, right? Well, then we kind of, like, my team does a huddle, right? We were like, okay, we need to get back into her room. We need to go back into her room, and we need to figure out what's in that room. Well, then I called my client. I said, listen, I need to get back into your house again, and I have access to your mother's room because we picked up on something in that room. We picked up on something in that room, and we want to confirm it. But she needs to be out of the house. She can't be in the house with us because she's gonna go into a defensive mode, right, or whatever. So in this moment that I'm telling her this, she goes, "Let me talk to her and I'll get back to you." That same day, they had a what is it called, an appointment with the OBGYN for the baby.
Mm-hmm.
They go to this appointment, and they end up rushing her to the hospital because, mind you, I don't know if it was because of drugs. I don't know if it was because of just things she's been through. But and again, those past 3 years, she suffered 2 strokes. So they wanted to make sure that the neurologist can check her and make sure that she was safe to deliver the baby. So they took her to the hospital. While she was there, she never brought up anything about this case to the doctors because the doctors they're not going to understand. They're going to go to something else.
Of course.
So the daughter starts having an outburst in the hospital. She starts, like, having this outburst, and the doctors see this, and they admit her to the psych ward. They took her to the psych ward, and she was there for a week. So in this process of being in that psych ward, this even though it's horrible that she's in there, because, mind you, if she herself is being affected by these things, imagine what other people in there have attachments in that place. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I said, even though this is a negative, I don't want her to be in there, but they're gonna evaluate her again and give her medicine for the supposed schizophrenia. While she's in there, that as an investigator again, I want to see if when she's out of the household, are they still experiencing stuff, or does it leave with her?
Oh,
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like a process of elimination, trying to, like, see if the house is still being affected, or does it go from place to place. And so she's out of the household, she's in the hospital. I say, okay, we're gonna go on this weekend. On this day, we go. It was a weekend. We arrive, and when we get there, the grandmother's there, and the grandfather had left with the little boy, the young lady's son. They leave, right, because he don't want to be there. And I said, okay, we're gonna be in here, but we need you guys to be outside. And the grandmother, Ned's there. Oh, and Ned's there with me, and my co-founder Lee's there. He's there, right? He's a police officer. He's there with me. And the grandmother's like, why do I need to be outside for? I go, because we need to figure out if when you guys are out of the home, are things happening in the home that maybe you don't know about, or is it only when you guys are in here? So
Mm-hmm.
she agreed to go outside. I go, we're gonna go into your room. She goes, no, you can't go in my room. And she has a key, and she locks the door to her room.
Oh.
And I'm like, this is why we're here. So she's outside with my client, her daughter, and I call my client. I go, listen, you need to get your mother, convince her to open this door to us because we need to investigate. We need to find out. So then she convinces her. She told me that I could open the door as long as I'm in here with you guys. I said, fine, that's fine. She opens it. We go in there, and we're looking throughout the whole room. We're looking for the shrine, and and what in my mind, when I think about shrine or altar, as far as like in the Hispanic culture, especially Catholics, I'm thinking like there's a area of the house where they have all these like candles that are burning, you know what I mean, like these velas that are burning, and they have the picture of Jesus, and they have a crucifix. I'm thinking that kind of altar, if you will, right? But I guess with her shrine that she in her mind, or what she told me, I had just another thought process, but it was like a small little area that she has where her little saints and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so we look under the bed, we go through like drawers, we're looking everywhere as much as we could, and there was nothing we could find that stood out to us. Well, then we're in the house. The grandmother comes in, and here comes Ned. I go, and one of the things that we were asking my client was, We want to find out why Grandma is reacting around Ned the way she does. Why? And instead of me asking her when Ned's not here, I'm gonna bring her to the house right now, sit her down on the sofa, and I'm gonna have Ned next to her, and I'm gonna ask her in front of Ned, and I want to see what her answer is. And mind you, I'm recording all this, and this is also uploaded to TikTok. You can see the video. I say with her, I say, Grandma, what is it about Ned that's making you react and get angry? As soon as she looks at Ned, she goes into the coughing spell, like, I mean, hardcore coughing. She goes into, and she's to the point where she can't even breathe. She can't breathe. She's like, ugh. And her daughter gives her like a Pepsi or some soda to drink. And Ned goes, should I go outside? I go, no, I want to record this because what is it about you that's making her do this? I mean, I understand his walk with God, right? I mean, we're all walking with God, but it's like, so then he exits the house, and she's like, she could barely talk. She could barely get words out because of how affected she is. As soon as he walks out, she starts like coming down, until where she's back to normal. And I'm like, why is it jumping between the grandmother and the granddaughter, but not the mother? And I'm not sure if it's because she already had the exorcism done. I don't know.
Hello everybody, here's another updated video. We went to our client's house yesterday with the possessed daughter, this case that we've been dealing with. And while we were there, since the daughter, the possessed daughter, is in the psych ward right now, they took her in after a visit with the OBGYN. When she was there, they rushed her to the hospital because she's had 2 strokes in the last 2 or 3 years. And so they wanted to check to make sure she was safe to have the baby because she is pregnant, right? And so she had an outburst. They put her in the psych ward. And so while she was out of the house, we wanted to go back into the home. We wanted to do a separate investigation to see if they have dolls there, they have attachments, and there's other things going on in the house. We wanted to see if it was separate from the main thing going on. And so while we were there, Ned, our investigator, who was very gifted, he was talking to the family, the grandmother, again, because from the last time we went, he said, if anybody has an attachment or is being affected, when I get close to them, they're going to react. And she reacted the first time she saw him. We went back again, and she saw him, and she got angry again. She refused for us to go into her room. There's ties to witchcraft. The elderly grandmother's father, when he was alive, he did witchcraft. They put a curse on him, and in turn, when he died, it dispersed amongst the family. So now, fast forward, we were there last night. We wanted to see, because she mentioned having a shrine that we couldn't see. We wanted to see if there was any sort of ties to witchcraft that she was doing. And so when we were there in the house, she started, again, reacting. Ned was there. We wanted to go into her room to look, and she got her key, and she locked the door. And so when she went outside, we were able to convince her to allow her daughter, our client, to open the door. We went in there, we searched, and the feeling was so heavy in that room. We couldn't find a source to it. But again, I said, you know what? Instead of me asking, we called her Grandma, instead of asking Grandma why she reacts around Ned, let me put her and Ned in front of each other. And let me ask, and let me see what her reaction is. And I'm about to play a video, and you're gonna see the interaction between her and Ned and how she reacts when he's around. And it's not because she's reacting, it's because of the attachment, this demon in the house that's affecting the family. It jumps between the grandmother and it jumps between the granddaughter. So after watching this video, I want you to take a look at this clip and tell me what you think. And like I said, I'm gonna continue making updated videos on this case. Soon we're gonna be having the exorcism done on this young lady. Once she has the baby, and once her son and this little child that she's gonna have get baptized, the priest is gonna come in and do the exorcism. So when that happens, I will definitely record the whole process and share it with you guys.
I ask this because it's important for the investigation. What do you feel when you see him? And be real, honest. And
very nervous.
And we won't be, he ain't take offense to it. It's just.
I'm very, very nervous, and I can't stop coughing now.
Okay.
You want me to go wait outside, brother?
No, we have to do this.
Oh, okay. No, I'm saying because they'll get worse.
Well, I know, but we have to document this.
Okay.
If it gets too bad, then you can go. Okay. But for now, I want to figure out what it is that's causing you to react this way, because We come here for Claudina,
You know.
and now, yeah, you want to get her something to drink? You know, we came for Claudina, but now,
Uh-huh.
can you?
I'm very nervous when he comes.
Could he wait out
Yeah,
just outside
yeah,
and
let
then
me go
she
Yeah,
could
wait,
still,
just, yeah,
she
wait,
could
wait for a
still
moment.
maybe she'd feel more comfortable.
Yeah, wait for a second, and we'll call you back in there.
I
Huh?
can barely talk.
No, he'll be fine.
It's like I stop, like breathing. I can't breathe.
Yeah, it's okay.
So, Mom, what goes through your mind when you see him? Honestly, like, what is it that, what do you think is making you feel this way?
I don't know.
Do you, when you see him, do you feel a certain thing? Like, do you feel anger? Do you feel like scared? What do you feel?
I think I'm more scared.
I think she
Scared?
feels agitated. I'm not sure why. I think she's telling the truth. I don't think she knows why.
So, and the reason I'm asking, and I'm not trying to make you feel like the way you're feeling now, it's just that if it's tied to what's happening in the house, we need to figure this out.
Okay, I recorded this. This is documented. Now, all these findings, this information I've gathered, let me go back to Father Lopez and let me update him on what's been going on. So then I go to Father Lopez, and mind you, I have all this recorded, the conversation. I bring Ned onto the conversation with Father Lopez because I wanted to meet Father Lopez because, again, Ned walks this way biblically with what he follows and how he prays. And again, Father Lopez is like that Roman Catholic priest. So I want to see how the conversation goes between them two. Well, then I update him on everything, and he was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do when I get down there. I asked him about the dolls, like, what should we do with the dolls? He said, just wait till I get there. I'll determine everything when I get there, and then we'll go from there. I said, cool. Well, then Ned and Father Lopez are talking. Well, then one of the things that I remember Father Lopez saying was that there's going to be moments where the daughter has outbursts, right? Like, she's going to be angry, she's going to react a certain way. It's because these demons or these things are trying to cause havoc and chaos in the home amongst the family, because that's how it thrives, off of the anger and the pain and the ego. So, but when that happens, don't try to argue back with her. In turn, smile, pray if you have to, step outside if you have to. Just don't engage with her in that way, because that's the whole plan. It wants to turn you guys against each other. So then I kept it in mind. Well, then Father Lopez and Ned are talking, and Father Lopez says to Ned, he goes, I know Mike for years. I know why he does what he does. I know for a long time. I know he wants to help people. He's like, but I don't know you. Who are you? And he goes, what is your faith? What religion are you in? And he was asking all these questions, which to me, I didn't think was a bad thing. He's just trying to get to know Ned. Well, then all of a sudden, it breaks off into an argument between Father Lopez and Ned, because Ned's like, he's like, I'm not a part of any one religion. My follow is through God and through the biblical text. He's like, yes, but when you're casting out demons, he's like, it has to be in the name of Jesus Christ. It can't be, through you. He goes, you're supposed to be seated in a location, whether it's a Catholic church, Christian church, whatever you have to be seated somewhere, through a church. He's like, I'm a ordained minister, but he's like, I go through a Roman Catholic, I'm a Roman Catholic priest through a church, and it connects to the Vatican, all these things, right? He goes, I'm seated. He goes, you can't just walk around and you're casting out through you. It has to be through God and through Jesus Christ. It can't be like, my name is Ned and I cast you out in my name. That's not how it works. You know what I mean?
No.
And he goes, I'm not. And Ned goes, I'm not casting out in my name. I'm casting out through God. He was through Yeshua, right? And so they're going back and forth, and they start, and Ned gets really like, so he's getting offended by whatever Father Lopez is saying, and they start saying, well, if you think you know everything, or you think you know whatever, he goes, what is the 9 something? And I can't even say right now word for word he said, but he was basically like questioning and putting Father Lopez's knowledge and faith to the test. And Father Lopez says, listen, I'm not here to challenge you, man. I'm not here to challenge your faith or what you believe in. He goes, but I just want to make sure that you're safe. He goes, when these demons attack you, they attack you through your heart, through the neural system. He's like, they hit you. You can have strokes, heart attacks. He's like, and you need to be prepared, because if something happens to you, he goes, and if you're not doing this properly, you can get hurt in the process. You could die.
Yeah.
And Ned gets mad and just hangs up the phone, which was weird for me. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
So then I'm like, okay, I'm already acknowledging that this thing is trying to cause chaos amongst us. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's why I tell people, this is a very real situation that's going on. And if you are not careful, man, so it's like a chain effect. Everyone can get hurt in this process.
Mm-hmm.
So, in this point where we're at currently is when the client's daughter did the outburst in the hospital and went to that psych ward, the hospital got CPS involved, Child Protective Services. So now they're doing a 30-day investigation.
So
And
complicated.
so it's difficult on our side because we're ready to get him in there to do the exorcism, but they're doing random visits. And if we're all showed up there and they're like, well, who the hell are these people? We're going to say, oh, we're family that just came in from out of town. They see a priest there. Why is there a priest here? You know what I mean? So it's like we're having to prolong this thing and wait until they get done with their investigation and either clear her or not, or whatever they're going to do. And if I can do it. But the thing is, Father Lopez, he's so booked with cases that he has to be in New York or something, at the end of the month. And so it's like, I don't want to miss his chance, but it's at the same time, I don't want to be all there and they show up unannounced and then it makes the situation worse, So it's just so much that's going on right now.
We are you've heard us throughout the podcast, Mike, just laughing because so many things you've talked about, we talk about on a weekly basis, and I'll just give some highlights. Right. So we started back with the coughing and the belching. But the big thing, and we can go over every detail, but that would be redundant. The big thing is the chaos, because demons have the ability to create an enormous amount of chaos to distract, and they also thrive on it. So it's kind of like a double power surge for a demon. If we're like a battery, or our emotions, or our fears, our anxieties, our battery, the chaos is the biggest. And we believe that if you want to see demonic activity in a family, just look at how much chaos is there, including the physical, like hoarding and things like that. So I can't prove this, but I believe that even getting CPS involved was part of the demonic scheme. Now, that's a guess, or that's conjecture.
To prevent it, pretty much, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it could guess what it's trying to do. So we kind of feel for you. I mean, you have a pregnancy, Mike. You have mental health counselors, now CPS. And so it's just awesome to see that your team is so, dedicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
no, definitely.
And so what my questions to you, and we'll kind of just blast through these real quick, is, so when you see Ned and the priest kind of having this, also probably part of the demonic scheme, and it doesn't mean that a demon is, infesting them or oppressing.
Right, not at all,
yeah. But just little ego trips. I'll give an example. I have been in a lot of places where we're performing deliverance ministry, what we call it, exorcism. It's anonymous. And demons will actually say something out loud about my personal life that nobody could know. And it when it happens to you, you get that emotional kind of response, because there's a fear, there's an anxiety, there's an embarrassment. And so I have no doubt that a demon could whisper in one or two team members' ears and getting them bickering, but ultimately it sounds like the team will work through that and get to where we're at. So if the priest has to go, and Father Lopez, when you first started talking, I said, I don't think I know who that is. And then it popped in my head, I think I do, because he's pretty well known. I think he's known for going around, and there's a handful of priests. We watch them that are kind of they kind of work independently, but they're still the church. And so if he does have to go to New York, is there some things that he has planned to put in place to kind of sustain them until he can come back?
and that's what we're waiting for right now because what the family requested was even though this case is ongoing now, this CPS case just started. She was like, if we have to, if let's say because he's going to be there for 6 days, I mean that means that in 6 days a lot can happen as far as not just the deliverance, but they can be popping at any time. And imagine mid exorcism and they pop in and say hello. You know what I mean? So, and I'm like, imagine being not make fun of the situation or make light of it, but it's like imagine he's in the middle of exercising this young lady, and then the CPS shows up like, what the hell is going on? They call the cops or
Right?
so it's a difficult thing because you never know when they're going to show up, and if let's say they come on a day where he's not performing the deliverance, right? And they see him because he always wears his priest outfit or yeah. It's like they're gonna be like, well, why is there a priest in here for? You know what I mean? Like, and then she was like, we can just say he's an uncle or something, but it's like, when they investigate, they're trying to gather as much information as possible. Who's there? Why are they there?
Yeah.
And it's like, and the last thing I want to do is, keep lying about it, and then it just makes it worse. You know what I mean? So right now, I'm just, I've been consulting with Father Lopez, and I'm just kind of waiting for his kind of what he wants to do because at the end of the day, it's like not about me, not about my team, not about even Father Lopez. It's about this family getting that peace and that reconnection back to God. You know what I mean? So, my hope is that maybe this investigation will come to an end soon, or maybe sooner than it normally would. That way we can get back on this thing and have them. Because even now, like as we speak, they have an appointment. I forgot what she told me that they're gonna basically do the baptism for the baby because the baby's here already. For the baby and the son because he said that was an important key to this that to be baptized, and so that's another thing we're waiting for. So it's like it's like a waiting game right now. And so but if let's say if worse comes to worse and Father Lopez can't come when he's supposed to come because of this thing, then the difficult part is I don't want to get too many people involved in this case because it's like cooking. When there's too many hands, I get to say too many hands in the pot. You know what I mean? If I'm cooking and you're coming to put your hand and somebody else, and it's too many hands and too many people season it differently, it's like it just doesn't work out, right? So the one thing I don't want to do is bring somebody else involved and then they make it worse or it doesn't work at all, and then it just causes more strain on the current situation. So it's like I am trusting God in the sense that everything happens for a reason. There are no coincidences. I trust that, God brought the right people into this moment at the right time, the right place. And so my hope, and I've been praying hard about it, is that, we can bring Father Lopez down still and bring him, and he could be there on a time where maybe they won't come in because this has to be done ASAP because mind you, 6 days, for at least, I mean, I've never been a part of an actual exorcism. So this is my first to be there to witness it in person. And mind you, I document everything, so I'm going to be there when it's happening. And, to me, not to kind of go off the question, but to me, I feel that in these moments, the takeaway from this, because we don't do this for money, we don't get paid for this. We do this because we want to learn, we want to grow in our faith. And in order for us to get to that next level, I believe we have to sometimes experience these moments. It's like saying a police officer who wants to be a police officer going and patrolling and never having a shootout, or never being in a moment where, or a firefighter going and never being part of a massive fire. You're gonna encounter it eventually. So in this case, paranormal investigator, you're gonna eventually encounter something really dark and really bad. So I feel like in this moment, it's also gonna bring me closer to God as well, because I already believe in God, but there is nobody I'd rather turn to in these moments than God, than Jesus Christ, because ain't no one gonna help me. You can't call the police, you can't call the firefighters. They're gonna be like, you're crazy. I'm sorry, you're on your own. So yeah, so that's where we're at right now, as far as just waiting to see if we can bring them in without them being involved, or just wait for it to be over. But it's like, God bless it, like you said, maybe there's a greater force in work that's doing these things on purpose. That way it can prolong this thing from leaving. But I guess we'll see what happens. I guess that's where I'm at right now.
Well, let me speak on this a bit, and as I would say to anybody, take all of this with a grain of salt. But I
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of experience in this area, and there's a couple of things that pop into my spirit. So I'm going to say the
Mm-hmm.
first one first
Mm-hmm.
is I believe that God has put you in this specific place in this specific time, led you through this path and this turn and that turn that led you perfectly to this place. And I believe, just watching your videos and such, that this isn't going to be the last one. And so I loved
Right.
what you said about learning, because I believe that this is going to open doors. And I'll kind of word it like this. When I was 17 years old, I performed my first deliverance ministry, on,
Mm-hmm.
kind of in a family situation, but other people knew about it. And it didn't take long for word of mouth to start. I would be getting
Right.
calls. And so I had done deliverance ministry for close to probably about a decade before I even was a formal minister in a church. And so it's going to come to you. I don't know if
Right.
I'm putting a curse on you or if I'm just preparing you. I
No, no. And you know what? And not to interrupt you, but because here's the thing. The one thing about social media is that there are people who don't hold back their thoughts, right? I believe in freedom of speech. I'll never take that away from anybody. But people who watch these clips that I'm sharing, they see it and they just see I guess the face value. They don't see the things that we get to see and experience. It's a real family dealing with a very severe, very real situation, and she's just a crackhead, or she's just this, and I'm like, listen, yes, there's drugs involved. Yes, there's trauma involved. Yes, there's a lot of things, but it doesn't take away from the fact that this is still happening. This is very real. And then on the other hand, I've had other investigators in the paranormal. Hey, can we sit in on this case with you just to observe? I'm like, this is not a spectacle.
yeah.
Yes, I'm sharing this because I want to bring awareness, but I'm not doing it because, it's not about the views, it's not about any of those things. It's just about, listen, whether you believe or not believe, it is still happening. And if you're not careful, you can encounter it. But hey, you know what? Maybe you watch this video, maybe you'll be more aware. And 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 again, I'm not saying that in every case it's always demons, right? Because there is mental illness. There is a lot of things that can cause things, but in
Mhm.
this case, it's a plethora of things. It's like a variety of things. But yes, there is mental health, there is drug abuse, there is this, there's that, but there's also this thing involved as well. And so for me, my takeaway is, how can I educate people, or at least bring awareness and say, listen, this is what we do as a team. Are we out looking for demons? No, because here's the biggest misconception about paranormal investigators is that they think we're devil worshippers. They think that we're out, trying to conjure up things, and I'm not, man.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to do that, because understand, there's consequences to those things. And I don't and just alone me going to investigate someone's home or business or property, there's a big chance I could bring it home to my own home, and I can affect my own family and my own pets and my own things. I don't want to do that. Even before I come into my home, when I'm parking my car, I pray, I say, God, if there's anything that followed me from the said location, if it is not from you, Lord, if it is not from your love, your light, your word, it cannot enter my home. In the name of Jesus Christ, it cannot come into my home. If it is not from you, God, it is not welcome. And I always pray even before I walk into my front door, because I don't want something to come with me. And so it's like, we can easily ourselves be affected, but it's like, that's a chance I'm taking, because if this one action, even if it's just to be, even if it's just to, because remember, this all becomes a testimony at one point. This
Mhm.
is going to be a testimony for this family, for us. If I can just be in that moment just to observe, just to be a part of the process,
Mhm.
again, what is my takeaway? Learning, growing, my faith gets stronger, but also seeing a family go from being so broken to God turning it, doing a 180, and seeing the peace back in their life, seeing that balance, seeing them being complete again, but only through the way of Christ doing it. You know what I mean? Because again, like I said, that's above my pay grade. I don't have that ability. So that's my takeaway. Because I've been in situations where I've seen families. I mean, gave up hope, and they're like done. And then seeing that, and I always tell every family I deal with, I say, how do you want your life to be after this is over?
Mm.
What do you want life to be like after this is over? Whatever that is, make sure God's a part of that. But whatever it is, hold on to that and grip that death grip, man. Hold on to that as much as you can, because right now all you see is this storm. Right now you see these rain clouds and it's thundering, hurricane winds. But like any storm, when it's over, the sun shines.
Sure.
So right now you're in a thunderstorm, but God's gonna see you through, man.
Hmm.
And it ain't me seeing you through. It ain't my team. It's God. I'm just here, a part of the process, watching and letting you know in the physical that you're not alone, and that's it.
Yeah.
So,
And I would say the second thing, because I'm going to give Melissa a chance to ask any questions here, but the second thing I would just say is, and I think you have this covered, but I'm just kind of reiterating.
hmm
There seems to be multiple things going on here. First, familial spirits, generational curses,
hmm
the opening of doors. When we say this a lot here, Mike, but you know, substance abuse is spirit. There's spirits behind that. I mean,
right,
we used
right,
to call alcohol spirits because
right. Of course, yeah.
so there is kind of a multifaceted deal, possibly some mental illness. And as a psychologist, I always had the benefit of being able to assess people. Many times, I would say most of the time, I went to people's homes. Mental illness was a much more accurate description of what was going on than possession. They're rare. And you said that in your video. These are rare, and they
hmm
are rare.
Right,
But I would tell you is that as you guys approach this, and I'm sure Father Lopez is well aware of this, and Ned as well, is that when you're coming from this multifaceted thing, there are multiple spirits. And you said that at the
hmm
beginning of our interview. So just remember when you're fighting these spirits that they're coming from multiple aspects. And I don't
right,
really have any concerns because as you were talking, anything that I was thinking, you were already saying. So
Mm-hmm.
what we'd like to
right.
do, and when Melissa's done with her questions, is pray for you and your team.
Oh, I
Um,
love that. Yeah.
and so, but before we do that, what pops in your head?
Well, I really don't have any questions, but I really do appreciate you spending the time and sharing this story. I'm always impressed and um, just you're so brave to do these type of things, to go to put yourself in those situations. Like you said, some things could potentially follow you home, but that's not stopping you. So I really do
Right,
appreciate that. I think people are starting to notice, like, I didn't really know that much about demons and attachments and things like that throughout my life until I met him. And then, a lot of things started to make sense. It's like, oh yeah, that's
right.
exactly. And it's like, wow, exactly. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. And I really enjoyed your
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I would like to add something if you don't mind.
Hmm.
I think one of the things that I want to better understand, and I wish I could sit down with, and I'm not sure, I'm not saying that all Catholic churches or all Christian churches or any church at all, that they're all against helping families, right? But to me, I wish I could sit down with these people. And I've tried here locally with some like Christian church, and I've reached out to the Catholic, they don't want to talk to me, but I wish that we could sit down and have a conversation and say, look, I understand through what you do is you follow the Bible and, on both ends, Catholic and Christian, but it's like, I know that you have an understanding and a thought process of what these things are, but if people are coming to you for help, right? You are a godly person serving the Lord. You're here to serve God and to help people, right? Not just like, hey, let me give you the word, but like God, when Jesus was here in his human form, he gave the ability to the prophets to cast out demons,
Sure.
as they went to different places, right? So it's like, and again, I'm not and please forgive me for saying this word, but I'm not a holy roller in the sense like I'm in church all the time. That's not me. I mean, my faith is in God. I
Hmm.
pray to him every day. But the thing is, the people from the church automatically shoot people down and say, "No, I can't help you." They don't even want to hear what's going on. No, I can't help you. And then they get mad when people like ourselves try to help. why get mad at people like ourselves when you're not willing to help them? If it's because, and I'm not trying to get like upset about this or, say, put a negative, effect on churches or whatever, because I'm not trying to do that. But it's like, if you're not willing to do this for people, then who do they turn to?
Exactly.
Who do they turn to and say, look, we can't help you, whether it's because they're scared or maybe they're just not equipped to do it. Well, then why not say, you know what, allow us as investigators, and again, I'm not saying I'm fearless, because we all get spooked. We all, get humbled really quickly. But why not allow us to work with you guys so we can go into the homes and gather the information for you? And if at that point you say, okay, this, we'll help in this instant, then we could tell you, hey, this is all our findings, and then you guys step in and you're the big dogs, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't want to. Like, I went to a Christian church here locally, and I sat down with the what is it, the pastor of the place, and he says, you need to find God. And he started giving me pamphlets. I'm like, look, I've been saved. I got saved when I was 14 years old. I said, but you're deflecting from why I'm here. I said, people need help. Can we work together somehow? Well, how about you come to Sunday service and just come to church and forget about that stuff? And I'm like, wait a minute, but people are being affected. If they cannot turn to you, yes, God is always there through the whole thing, beginning to end. But in the physical right here, if you cannot help them, then who do they turn to? You're saying that what I'm doing is wrong. It's against God's law. Then who do they turn to? So it won't be that way. Because at the end of the day, whenever I go help people, listen, if this is wrong what I'm doing, then I'll stop, because I don't want to be against God. Because I don't want the last thing I want to do is to be in front of God and say, I never knew you. Do you know how scary that is?
That's
And
terrifying.
that makes me emotional.
Yeah.
Because for God to say, I never knew you, whoo, I'm sorry, that gets me emotional.
It does, yeah.
And so for me, it's like, there's real people who are being affected by this.
Uh-huh.
And it's unfair that, excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, do not.
It upsets me so bad, because it's like, there's churches, there's places, there's people, and I get not everyone's like that, but the people who are put in these positions to help, they're refusing to help. They're saying, no, we can't help you. And it's so bothersome, because they look at me and they criticize me. But I'm the one who, and again, I'm not making it about myself, but that's why when I say, God, put me where you need to put me.
Uh-huh.
I don't care how difficult it is. I don't care if it's an infestation. If you trust me enough to be in that moment, just to be there with them, and you do the rest, use me as your vessel, man. Like, you help me, Lord. I'll be there. As long as you protect me, and I could I'm protected by your love and your light and your word and your shield, man. I'll be there. I'll put me in the trenches. I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I go. I don't even second guess it. I just show up. Am I saying I'm better than these churches? Nah, by any means. I'm no better than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, something has to give. There has to be somebody out there that says, okay, let's sit down, let's talk, let's figure this out together, because this is a real problem. And lately, because of, again, people say, oh, the end times, I don't know, but there's been a rise of these cases.
Absolutely.
And somebody has to step up.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just one person, man. I'm not perfect by any means. I fall short daily. From the moment I wake up and breathe to the moment I go to sleep,
Sounds like
I fall short. I fall short of God's love and His grace, man. But He still gives it to me. He still wakes me up. As long as I'm waking up, I know I have a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I wake up, I give God thanks. Thank you for waking me up, Lord. Now what do I gotta do?
Mm-hmm.
Let's figure this out, man.
Yeah.
And so whenever I get these cases, that's why I share what I do. And I don't share everything. If you're like, oh, can you share the whole thing? No. I just share a little snippet of it, because I want people to know that, man, we deal with real stuff. And don't get me wrong. Are there people out there who make a mockery of what we do in the field? Yes, 100%. They're out there in cemeteries and they're acting like fools, running around.
Yeah.
That does exist.
Of course.
But that's not me. Just like the church, there's people who want to help and there's people who don't want to help. That doesn't mean that because the ones who don't want to help it shouldn't make all the other ones who don't want to help make them look bad. Just like myself, there's people who make our field look horrible, but it doesn't mean that we're like that too. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a small piece of the puzzle, you know.
Well, Mike, we keep looking at each other
So I
again.
didn't mean to get emotional, man.
No, you. If you go back and listen to what two
Mac,
episodes ago, I cry all the time, because I get the same emotion. You're speaking our language, Mike,
mhm,
100%. As somebody who worked in the church, like I said, we were constantly under that, and even from the people above me, elders, they didn't want to hear about it, and so we're constantly encouraging people,
mhm,
keep asking, keep finding the right people. I say this all the
Right.
time. There's a well-known minister who had, his name is Isaiah Saldivar, and if you go to isaiahsaldivar.com/deliverance map, he literally has compiled a map of priests, pastors, in all areas, even all around the world, that will do this kind of
Hmm.
ministry, because he shared the same
mhm,
frustration that we have, that these are the places you should go. If I have a medical problem, I go to the doctor. If I have a psychological problem, I go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist. Well, if I have a spiritual problem, I should walk into the building that says church. But yet when people
Right.
walk in, they get turned away. And I can say it because I used to be a minister. I'd probably get away with it. Most of these guys have maybe a semester of spiritual warfare, if not a lecture, in their education, and that is it. That's all they have. And so they're not prepared, and it's easier for them to say, well, this is all demonic. We were talking about a video not that long ago where this well-known TikTok minister, we'll call him, was saying that anybody who's going out to do this is preaching demonic. And it's like,
Hmm.
no, dude, there's people out there that are trying to get people out of their mess into the loving arms of Jesus Christ, experience his grace, which is where their deliverance, where their
mhm,
redemption comes from. But they think that way because I believe they're scared. I could be wrong. That's my opinion. I'll say it so you don't, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, but
Right.
so
Right.
so we're very grateful, and we wanted you on the air, Mike, because we want people to be encouraged that there are teams like yours that are doing it for the right reason, and
mhm,
that when you catch evidence of something, that it's
Right.
to help the family, and if you happen to catch the evidence of the demonic, that you can share that with people that can come in and help. And that's really what the purpose should be. So I love the fact that
Right.
you sought out these churches, and my encouragement would be just keep finding them, and you'll keep finding resources and so on and so forth. And I have a lot of knowledge in this background. I have a ton of knowledge in who the demons are, where they come from, why things are on the rise. And if I'm this big compared to some people that I could refer you to. So don't hesitate to reach out to us and say, hey, I have a question. Where do you think this comes from? But more importantly, as our time gets short here, I want to pray for you and your team. Can we do that?
Most definitely.
All right.
Go ahead.
Father God, I know that there's so much oppression that comes from the enemy through people about teams like Mike's, about Mike in general, just that his heart is such in the right place, and the enemy knows that. And so they come for him in, criticisms, comments on a social media post, or even rebuttals, or even outright refusals of the church. But God, I pray for his heart. I pray for his strength. I pray for him that he continues to gather wisdom in this area, because what I saw, and has now been confirmed through this interview, I see a warrior. I see somebody, as Melissa said, who is not afraid to go to the places that maybe most people are. So, God, I pray for his protection. I pray that you would send legions of angels to surround him as he walks into these places. I pray that you surround his home, his family, every step he takes with angels as he works on this specific case, God, because I believe there's multiple spirits. And so, God, I just pray in your name that you would be with him, surrounding him, as it says in your word, that you would be a light unto his feet and a lamp unto his path, that you would guide his steps, and give him the ability to discern. Not everybody has to have this enormous gift of discernment to be able to have the ability to discern in the moments. And so, God, I pray that you would gift him with that. And God, I pray for the outcome of this case. Most importantly, God, when I see those videos of that young lady, my heart breaks because she's been through so much, yet she, has persevered. But the enemy finds us in our weakest points and attaches. And so, God, I pray for her deliverance. I pray for the deliverance of the grandmother. I pray for family curses to be broken and generational curses to be shattered. I pray that any bonds or chains that have been attached by curses from other witches or other warlocks, that those would be broken in this family in your name, Jesus. And I pray for a happy ending, a story that can be told from start to finish by Mike and his team, but that this story would be maybe finalized by the very words of this young lady who can say that I once was lost and now I'm found. And so, God, we just know that you're in this. We know that you are in charge, and we just leave all of these things in your hands and at the foot of your throne. And we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Well, Mike, again, we just want to thank you for your time. We want to just give you an opportunity. I can tell them, but it's better to come from you. Tell people where they could find you. We could guide them to your TikTok page for the videos, but is there ways to find you, your team? Tell us how to get a hold of you.
Yeah. So if you want to look at the videos of what we've been talking about today, then definitely go to TikTok and you can search the Dead Awakening Para. I couldn't put the full paranormal because it was just too long of a name. The Dead Awakening Para, and you will see our blue logo that has our little logo there, and you can see all the videos that we have that I've shared with for all to see. Also, if you have any questions pertaining to maybe things you're experiencing in the paranormal, and one of the things that I do offer is that even though I realistically can't help everyone all over the world, but what I'm willing to do, free of charge, of course, I'm gonna charge for any of my services, is that if you are in another state, even another country, if you are going through something that you feel is paranormal related, email me to the Dead Awakening Para, that's Para, so the Dead Awakening Para at gmail.com. And what I can do is I can find somebody local to you. I'll do the research. I will find a team or individual who's local to you. If I can't get you myself locally, and if you're somewhere else, I will find the people to connect with you, and I will make sure to do the background checks and make sure they're a good resource, and have them come out and help you, and not a dime will be ever charged to you. Just they have that same mindset of wanting to have that willingness to help you, and just in any way they can. So email me, or you can reach out to me through my TikTok account.
Mike, I believe we see the heart of a warrior, as I said in my prayer. And I just want to make sure that, you are encouraged. Don't let these churches get you down. I don't think you are, but don't let them do it, because you're doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that, because
Thank you.
guiding people to Jesus can't be wrong. So,
Right. No, amen to that. Definitely.
yeah. All right, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Have a blessed evening.
Okay, Melissa, what do you think?
Wow, that was amazing. So I really enjoyed our conversation with Mike, and our prayers go out to him and his team for what they're doing. I think it's amazing and like very humbling that they're spending their time to go out and help people, the best that they can, and for no charge, and calling in, the cavalry when they need help, when they're not sure about something, or just make sure they're not just going out stirring things up and then leave the family alone to deal with it. And I have had a chance to go back and look at the other clips on TikTok just to kind of follow the story. And it's amazing. It's it's very interesting. And it just goes back to, what you've talked about on the other podcasts that we've had, or the other episodes that we've had about generational curses and the turmoil in the family and depression and anxiety and things like that. Is just, a big key of it that we really don't think about. until until it's full blown, something's going on. But it's very intriguing, but they're very scary at the same time for me.
Yeah, and
What do you think?
those videos are very scary. I think I'd want our listeners to know that um, you really do need to go to Dead Awakening Paranormal's TikTok page
Hmm.
and look at some of these videos. You can definitely see that this young lady has something going on. Am I going to
And
say
she's
that?
so pretty,
Yeah, she looks.
very pretty.
Yeah, she looks like, under different circumstances, she
Hmm.
would just be a normal girl. But
Hmm.
when you look at this, we could never say this is 100% proof of demonic possession, because skeptics will, they jump all over that. But
Hmm.
on the same token, the devil himself could walk up to a skeptic and they would say it was they were hallucinating or whatever. So,
Hmm.
but what
Yeah.
it does when you hear Mike tell the entire story and all of the factors involved, everything starts to make
Hmm.
sense. There's video on there of the grandmother, which is one of the things that kind of sold me that this is the real deal.
Hmm.
Like he said in the interview, when they're
Yeah.
asking questions, she begins to cough pretty uncontrollably. You can
Hmm.
see that right in the video. And if you remember, I said, "Hey, this right here shows
Oh yeah.
demonic
Hmm.
activity." And you can hear us talk about this, and I couldn't tell you what episode it was, but maybe the beginning of this season, approximately there, maybe 15 to 18 episodes ago, you'll hear me talk about coughing when
Hmm.
somebody has a demonic attachment or a possession. They'll cough uncontrollably, belch uncontrollably, like he
Hmm.
said. And so when you look at the whole thing in its entirety, this looks like a legitimate case. But I
Yeah.
think the bigger thing for me is the authenticity of Mike.
Yeah.
I mean,
Seems
he's the real
very.
deal.
Hmm.
And what sells me on that is his acknowledgement that, hey, I'm not the professional in this.
Hmm.
I'm a professional paranormal investigator, but I
Yeah.
am I am educated enough and
Hmm.
skilled enough to know what a possession looks like and to call in some professionals.
Hmm.
So he isn't trying to overstep his bounds. And I mean, when you hear him talk about, hey, don't
Yeah.
don't do this unless you know what you're doing, because yeah, there's a lot of paranormal teams
Hmm.
that will think, oh, I watched Zach Bagans on Ghost Adventures, or I watched a couple videos on Deliverance Ministry or Exorcism. I'm going to try to help these people.
Hmm.
And what he says is true. They'll come for you.
Oh
Those
yeah.
demons will come. And so
Hmm.
you always want a group of people. You don't ever want to be alone. You always want to have somebody who's very skilled and educated, and pray,
Hmm.
pray, 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 pray. I love that he prays when he gets there, when he gets out of the car,
Where
when
he
he
gets
gets
home.
back
Exactly.
home
That's
before he even
smart.
walks in the house.
Hmm.
So I really enjoyed that interview.
Yeah.
I think we will stay in touch with Mike for sure. We've already kind of talked about some other
Hmm.
stuff, but definitely to give you updates as to what's going on, because the case is so complicated.
Yeah.
Can't do the exorcism because she's pregnant, which somebody can go into cardiac arrest.
Hmm.
There's her and the baby. And then you're talking liabilities for that priest
Hmm.
and everybody involved, Mike and his team included. Then CPS gets involved. And I totally get what he's saying. If you're at a house praying for people and the doorbell rings and it's CPS, what are you doing? We're
With
doing
eight
an
people.
exorcism. They're taking that kid and the other kid,
Hmm.
and they're possibly, looking at legal stuff, especially if they get there and the young woman who's possessed is in some sort
Exactly.
of poor physical shape.
Hmm. Yeah.
There could be a whole bunch of liabilities there. I don't know if you remember, but in the first book, The Struggle, the blue one there, um, I wrote into the story that during the possession, the doorbell rings, and then I won't ruin the story from there, but because I have been at people's homes on multiple occasions,
Hmm.
I'm talking sometimes late at night, and the doorbell rings. And I've been there so late at night that I thought this is a demon like trying to distract.
Hmm.
No, it's like a cousin. Hey, I was in the area. Sorry to bother you. I just showed up. And how awkward for the family to have to say, hey, man, can you come back? Well, why? What's going on? Who's this
Mhm.
guy?
Yeah.
He's doing deliverance ministry on our daughter. Like, you see how weird that is?
Mhm.
So,
But they're very cautious. They're very aware of everything. They're not just for show or to get the reactions or to get more views on TikTok or anything like that. They're very sincere.
very professional,
Very
sincere,
professional. Yeah.
and authentic. I mean, Mike's
Mhm.
just an authentic guy. If
Yeah.
you don't like that guy, there's something wrong with you. Just a real deal,
Yeah.
big old kind of teddy bear type guy. So, but then fearless, like you said. So, so we'll keep you updated on this case. Again, please go to Dead Awakening Paranormal's TikTok page and check out those videos for yourself. We'd love to hear. You can send us some comments either through the comments of Spotify or Apple or YouTube or Rumble, wherever you're listening to this podcast. Or you could send it directly to the email address that I'm going to give you in a second. So we just want to remind you that this podcast is copyright The Struggle LLC. It is written by us, Anthony and Melissa Corelli. We want to send a special shout out to Todd Kozinka at Todd K Voiceovers for all the music and voiceover work that he did for our show. We want to remind you to check out thestruggleseries.com. You will be able to check out the books, the podcast information, Melissa, little bio, my bio. You could donate on there if you want to help keep the podcast on the air. If you do purchase any of the books on there, I will personalize them for you. Lastly, remind you, if you have a story of your own, you see something like this and you want to run it by us, we will reach out to the other paranormal teams that are working on similar cases. But if you have a story of your own, audio file, you want to write us a letter, you want to be a guest on the podcast, that's going to be the Deliverance Project Podcast at gmail.com. That is the Deliverance Project Podcast at gmail.com. So we want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. May God bless you and bring you peace.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to The Deliverance Project. Make sure to subscribe, tell your friends, and we will see you next time.